Okay, welcome back to Top Secret. Now, everything that we say, please keep top secret. Shh. Okay. So, in about 5 minutes here, I will be starting a Metaverse Monday. But before that, let's get to a couple of things. Now, this is going to be a fun top secret because I'm going to do the whole intro for Metaverse Monday live, then I'm going to pause it, then we have a special guest later. Yada yada. But first of all, let's show this. So this is hilarious. Okay. So Lally McClay, self-proclaimed plonker, okay, basically tagged me in something. I didn't see it because it was deleted. So I said, hey, Lally, post was deleted. So I'm not sure what it said. Now, if you know, Lally McClay is one of the very few exclusive guests ever to be on the JSpeak podcast. We haven't had that many episodes. Lally was on it very early. I think she was episode 3. So we always appreciate Lally. We've been following Clay Nation for quite a bit. So I say, hey, Lally, the post was deleted, so I'm not sure what it said. She said, yes, don't worry. It was me being a plonker. So then I said, what is a plonker? And she said, I am just a silly. I posted something, but it was already dealt with, so I deleted it, but not the tag I tagged you in. So I said, sounds good. Well, if you're a plonker, I probably am too. Now, a plonker is not to be confused with a plunker, okay? Plunker is a person or thing that plunks, right? Angling, casting a lure, right? Kind of like maybe putting something out there, seeing if somebody bites. A plunker is not to be confused with a plonker, okay? So a casting a lure that makes a plunking sound, someone that plunks is a plunker, but a plonker is a silly or a stupid person. So if Lally's a plonker, I'm probably a plonker too. I'm just gonna say that. Self-deprecation, I think, on both of our part. But I think we're both kind of silly. I think many people should be more plonker-esque. And it's 2 new vocabulary words for me because I didn't even know what a plunker was or a plonker. So I wanted to share that. Smart vocabulary words, it says. So add them in. All right. Right now, I'm about to start Metaverse Monday with Cornucopias 2024, yada yada. So we're gonna, start that pretty soon here, and then I'm gonna pause it, and then we're gonna continue Top Secret 16, episode 16, trying out new things. A couple of show notes is I'm not sure what we're doing for next Metaverse Monday, but we will have it. But we do have a time change for the next No BS Radix research episode, which is going to be at 9 a.m. on Friday. Okay. Nothing scheduled. Guys, I had a few projects in the Radix community reach out recently, and they're like, hey, let me, I'm working. I think it was, shout out to Delphabets. We'd love to have them. A couple others. They're like, hey, man, let's schedule a time. We want to be on the No BS Radix research. And I'm like, guys, there's no scheduling times. Okay, I'm not one of those guys that schedules things for this space. This is a platform. You can come, projects come, request speaker, get used to it, because every week you can come and request speaker, and we'll ask real questions, and we'll try to keep it entertaining and fun, but educational first and foremost. So there's no need to request permission. There's no gatekeeping of permission. You can, listen, I'm not even a meme coin guy, but if you notice in the last No BS Radix research space, I invited any of there was, I guess, meme coins that were the founders were there or something. They didn't come up on stage, but I said, guys, look, I'm not a meme coin guy, but you can come on and talk, and we'll ask questions about what you think of Radix and stuff. I'm just not trying to get conflated with all the pump and dumps that happen with meme coins, and there's certain things in the crypto space that I don't want to be associated with. But that doesn't mean that on the Twitter space or next space you can't come. I mean, gosh darn it, we've had I think Metaverse Monday the founder of Stripper Coin, who's like a huge Cardano community member. And he started this coin called Stripper. We've had him on, and he's a really nice guy. So I mean, I'm not trying to schedule things and stuff. The only reason why I scheduled things for Metaverse Monday still is because sometimes there's products that we've covered in the past, but we want to maybe talk about things with. I do, have a Starbucks today. I'm not like, saying that I like Starbucks more than Dunkin' Donuts. And it is an oatmeal milk shaken espresso drink. Okay. They're like pretty expensive. They're like the most like expensive drinks ever. This is why I like Doug's more than Starbucks. But I do like oatmeal milk shaken espressos sometimes. Okay. We got to start the space and then we'll continue top secret. There's a couple of things here though that are going to be interesting as we go down. So let's just continue on with the space here. Okay. So this is going to be, Metaverse Monday. All right. So I think we're started. Good. And I'm at 97% charge. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it that well, so let me just do the intro real quick. And then I'll pause it and we'll kind of continue later. Because we have Abstract Potato coming on, I think, tonight at some point. Okay, so I am recording on Zoom for a segment of the show right now, but for Top Secret, a show I run. But this is Metaverse Monday. And by the way, this is, I think, this is the first Metaverse Monday of the year because we didn't do one at the beginning. And we've had, I think, Cornucopias as our first Metaverse Monday on in 2023 as well, in January of 2023. So this is kind of a cool thing. I'm going to send this to Rob and Josh, just kind of get them in here. But this is going to be sort of a, Cornucopias focused. However, we're going to ask them some questions about what they're seeing on the crypto, the metaverse, just on the horizon for 2024. There's lots of folks I'm hearing talking about all sorts of things for 2024. One of the biggest things is the Bitcoin ETFs, but there's more than that. There's a lot of things happening in 2024, and builders build, so I don't think it's going to necessarily be too, derailing for a project, but there's some outside events that would be kind of interesting just to hear their takes on. And we have Josh in the crowd actually right now. So let me get Josh up here too. Key of Josh, Key of Joshua. Key of Joshua in the house, and Rob will be coming pretty soon here. So we just started the space, and again, I'm recording this part of Top Secret too, just a quick little segment. Then I'm going to shut off the Zoom call and just continue on the space. And as we get Josh up here and Rob. Now, I think Rob is also coming too. And Josh, Rob lives across the pond. Me and you are kind of in the US. Rob is he's a trooper, man, when he comes to these spaces because they are kind of later. And we always offer for Metaverse Monday, we can be a little more flexible on times and stuff. But I gotta say, for the Metaverse Mondays that Rob has been here, he's stayed up. He's been a trooper, and we just really appreciate him, and we appreciate you. And Happy New Year to you too, Josh. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm actually at the gym, wrapping up a workout.
Let's go.
A little winded, but I'm here, dude.
Well, that's a trooper. I mean, you guys are troopers because you're always at the gym on Metaverse Monday, and I actually like that, by the way. I think that's the way it should be because they say you can't, walk and chew gum at the same time, but you're proving them wrong constantly, and I just think that's awesome, man.
Well, I mean, I could do the cardio while being on Metaverse Monday, but I don't think I could actually lift because you ask great questions. So would have to stop my focus if I was lifting. But yeah, it's good. It's good to be here.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Doing like yeah, if you're doing some kind of yeah, I'm not sure, like maybe benching and stuff. It just you wanna you
Focused. In your
yeah.
set, you gotta be in your set. Otherwise, you're not really maximizing the lift. But cardio is a little different. I'm always watching YouTube videos or listening to audiobooks or whatever it may be during cardio, so it works.
No, I do the same, man, when I'm going for walks or hikes and stuff. And yeah, are you reading any good like or I guess listening to any good audiobooks recently? I was yeah.
I have a few in the lineup, um, for sure. One of them is called The Culture Map, and it's about different cultures all over the world and the way they do business. And really, it's kind of to investigate and see if we need to consider having some of our team members read that, since we have people all over the world working on cornucopias. So it's like if there's a certain culture, like we have guys from India, we have guys from Ukraine, we have people in Canada, UK, US, and all of these are different mindsets, different cultures that they bring to the table. So to help the team get along better and understand each other, I was looking into that book, but haven't started it yet, so I can't tell you anything about it, really.
No, that's an interesting one. Yeah, because crypto is sort of one of these spaces, and really, even when you were seeing like, even when I was first doing like, I don't know, my first centralized exchange purchase, right? You notice that the stock market it operates 5 days a week or whatever, and then in crypto it's sort of 24/7 and it can be traded all the time. And I think that like that lends to maybe why like different like teams from around the world can actually be cohesive. It's like crypto doesn't stop. That's a very interesting take. I wrote that book's name now. I'm probably gonna download it later tonight too. Thanks for the suggestion, man. But yeah, it's interesting how crypto just doesn't stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. It's crazy. Uh, it's completely different than any other industry I've ever worked in, and I knew this well before cornucopias. But yeah, the speed of things in crypto is just like 1 month is like 5 months, um, and the amount of experience you get in a short amount of time in crypto is insane.
Yeah, because how do you like how do you view like because for me it's really interesting when I see people take off from crypto and come back like 4 months later. I haven't done that yet, and I really like don't I'm not saying that people shouldn't do that, but for me it's so tough because there's so much freaking happening on the tech like even just like in the trenches with some of these just these new methodologies or new standards or just like the tech is evolving so quickly, the infrastructure is evolving so quickly, so it's almost and even if you're in it all the time, you're still like it's still impossible to almost keep up. Like it's only going to be exponential as more people, I guess, start building and I guess comes onto the scene and develops more. Like it's going to be really, I think it's going to be tough, man, for to like really keep up regardless, even if you are full into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree. Nothing at all easy. I haven't ever tried that, but yeah, I couldn't imagine if I was away for like 3 months or something like that, trying to come back to crypto. I would feel lost. Even
Yeah.
sometimes, just like when I got married last
Okay.
year,
I'm gonna stop the recording.
we were out of
Tune in.
town, and I took
It's recorded.
4 days off for my honeymoon.
Okay. Whew, what a space that was. All right. So now let's just look real quick at a couple of things. We have a surprise guest coming on. So once they get on, we'll kind of involve them in the kind of show here, and then we'll talk with them about what they're doing. So we just did the space. Kiwi says, more info about my absolute favorite Web3 based game. This is a metaverse platform that I think will bring amazing things to everyone as they build, not just gamers. It was a great space, so I will say that. All right, so we have Nelly who says, as requested by J Crypto short tutorial, how to connect Radix to StokeNet and what that actually is. This was a great little tutorial here by Nelly. On the last No BS Radix research space, we talked about XRD domains, which is sort of the ENS comp, and more potentially. I mean, it's not more because of XRD domains and Wiley. It's more because of, I think, what Radix's tech can enable for something like an ENS project. But on Radix, it's XRD domains, not ENS, Ethereum name service. It's XRD domains. But we've interviewed Wiley before, and they're just getting ready for people to start reserving and minting their handles. I gotta send Wiley my XRD address so that way he said that he was going to reserve jspeak. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I didn't ask for that or anything. That was just a little bit of an extra thing, so we appreciate you, Wiley. And then he says, great walkthrough from Nelly. We'll need this to interact with the XRD domains StokeNet platform next week. XRD domains founder kind of Wiley out here just kind of re-emphasizing why StokeNet. Now, by the way, learning how to access StokeNet on the Radix mobile wallet is not just for XRD domains. Okay, this will allow you to get into a lot of things early, and some projects kind of require that so they can test out their tech and still have people participate in it. For example, XRD domains is one of said projects that does that. Okay, really interesting interview here by Demos. Now let me just see real quick. I think we have somebody that just came in, so one sec. Is that Abstract Potato?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hey, man. Nice seeing you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, welcome to episode 16 of Top Secret, a show talking about things that I'm doing / just like showing off some things I'm interested in. And we have Abstract Potato here, an absolute legend. Abstract, do you mind if we just roll through the rest of these and maybe get your comments on them before we talk exclusively about Starch? And I had it pulled up. I was looking at, there's like a nice little bit of info on, I think, the different things about it, the utilities, what exactly how proof of work comes into play. But do you mind if we just rattle off some things and get your commentary on them? It might be fun. There's a few things in there I actually wouldn't mind getting your perspective on.
Hell yeah. I'd love to.
Because this is kind of what we do on this whole thing here. So let's go, and let me just share the sound for a minute here, and then I might not be able to. So I don't know if did you see this, Abstract? I don't know if you're into the
No, I haven't.
Okay, I don't know if you're into the Mallard order or anything, but I didn't know this until I watched this, so it's kind of interesting. And I'm just gonna blow up my screen here because Abstract isn't going to be on camera. He's not able to right now, so we're just going to get his voice. But Abstract Potato is a respected dev in the Cardano ecosystem. He knows what the heck's going on. This is just kind of a fun deal. So let me just play this.
Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson, broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Always warm, always sunny, sometimes Colorado. Today is March 28th, 2023. I have Demosthenes from the Mallard Order with me, and I will be asking him some questions.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on.
So I noticed you have the number 1576 on your PFP and insignia. What is that all about?
That's a great question, Charles. At the Mallard Order, we're passionate about incorporating our ideals into every aspect of our project. That's, from our artwork.
Do you know what 1576 is, Abstract?
No, is this
Okay.
somehow that sounds AI generated? Is that just me or?
I thought the same thing. So I figured we could like do these updates so I could tag people and they can see what you're doing. More people will probably watch that way. But also I don't know. But that I thought the same thing. Isn't that funny? But let's just
Yeah,
because
Charles. Yeah.
look at this though. This is an AI company called DID. So I think it is. This is definitely like something I've used on a Clay Nation PFP. So
It just
yeah,
there's something about the inflection of the voice. There's something a little bit off that it just sounds like AI. It doesn't sound like
no, it definitely is.
how
It
it's like
is AI.
imitation.
It is AI. 100%. It's AI. I know for a fact. I just kind of wanted to play. But let's just watch. So 1576. I didn't know this, but I've heard it. I just forgot about it. So let's just.
To our branding. As a native Cardano project, we simply wanted to pay homage to the blockchain's roots in a meaningful way. That's why we chose the number 1576, the year that Girolamo Cardano, the Italian mathematician, after whom the blockchain was named, passed away.
So are you some type of duck or something? Quack. Do you like the pond? Quack, quack. So wait, you're a duck? Quack, 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 quack.
Okay. So let me just stop sharing for a second because I turned on the sound features. So any commentary from the abstract
I
for
mean, I think it's very funny. It reminds me of those Joe Rogan edits that people started making a couple years back. It
yeah.
was just like Joe Rogan versus Joe Rogan, or like him saying some really weird, wacky shit. I mean, he already says some really weird stuff already, but kind of just I love how he just like quack quack right there at the end.
No, I know.
It's very
And
interesting.
I've actually used this too, DID. Have you ever used that?
No, I haven't gotten into the voice side of AI at all, but I know it's very interesting. There's a lot of developments. It's kind of scary how close they're getting, but
Yeah,
you
so
know,
like a year ago,
those are
I used this on a Clay Nation PFP. So you can like you can do a bunch of things. But what was interesting about this though is that it had Charles' voice. When I was using DID a year ago, you couldn't do that. So he must have used a couple of AIs, I think. But we'll tag him and see what he says. Nonetheless, okay, so I did a podcast with Army of Spies. People can check out JSpeak Late Night Show. And that's kind of how this came together, actually, funny enough, was I was covering a bit on what I guess Captain from Cardania, who might actually be on later in this episode to comment only on what Abstract is doing and just maybe listen in or ask him some questions. Funny enough, he tipped me off. So I don't know if you've talked with Captain from Cardania yet, but he was the one that said that I should look into what you're doing. I don't know if you knew that.
yeah. He's been we've been talking and talking about like how to incorporate the two projects together and different things. So definitely a lot of developments that I'm hoping are going to come out for that in the near future. But we have some stuff that we're trying to work out around to plan and stuff. I'm very excited. I love that project too. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, because in this episode we talked about MMA, the UFC for about an hour, and then just went through a bunch of updates. And then AOS was talking about the sort of canary in the coal mine, which was I forget exactly what the form is. It's like a 19-B, or I think it's yeah, it's some kind of letters, how they do the forms for SROs, which are like self-regulating organizations. So it's interesting hearing him, but he did say in response to this spontaneous podcast where we cover the only category of sport that really matters along with various and sundry other items. He said I was pretty reasonable, which, I don't think is necessarily true. Throughout, while he remained focused on self-aggrandizement unjustified boasting and falsely positioning myself as knowledgeable. So shout out to AOS as always. Yeah, and then there was some interesting, back and forth. Abstract said, always down to speak. And I said, done, I'll reach out. And I had heard about this a couple of times. So now we're just going to get into kind of some upcoming guests. Abstract. So number one, Riley, we're going to do a podcast with him on Thursday. I don't know if you have any thoughts on Riley or what Summon's doing lately, but he's been demanding Babble fees consistently. He's on day 21, last I checked, demanding Babble fees and what he calls a natural fee market for Cardano. So I don't know if you have any commentary on this.
So that's interesting. I haven't really looked into it too much, to be honest with you. To be honest, it's just I've put my head down and been developing for the past few weeks, so it's kind of hard to keep up with all the other developments. But yeah, what's the exact conversation that's going on here?
Yeah, so there is there's a nuanced conversation around natural fee markets where Babble fees once implemented on Cardano, where we can pay transaction fees and basically any Cardano native asset would create what Riley calls a natural fee market. So I think it's a bit of, hey, let me say something, that might get some attention. Let me say fee market because a lot of people on Cardano, have a very, when they see what happened on Ethereum with fee markets and the adverse effects of fee markets and the whole root of trust angle that Cardano is positioned on, they probably get their ears up hearing from a person like Riley, who's behind the Summon protocol and, such a core Cardano builder. So I think it's more of a marketing thing, getting people to think about fee markets in a different way. But I'm going to talk to him on Thursday so we can any questions you'd want me to ask in that.
I mean, my biggest concern in doing something like that, and this is, beyond, because I would have to get more information. Maybe they've already solved this, but it's like, because if, let's say I mint a token, and then how is that determined really? Like, who chooses? Because right now everything's through ADA, right? So let's say somebody mints a token and sets a certain supply. How do you track, like, what are the fees? And there's so many other variables that are already set with ADA that you would need to set also with these other tokens. So it's that layer of complexity. I mean, I would have to definitely check more into it to be able to give like a more educated, stance on that. But that would be my biggest concern. Like, okay, this is the problem. The problem is, or the thing you want to do. So what problems come with that? I see it as coming at, a lot of different little problems could come up with that.
Yeah. Okay, cool, man. Yeah, I'll definitely tag him in this and also ask him around that. So I don't know if you've heard about what Zygomeb is now doing with Optum, but the Leviathan white paper dropped. Have you heard of this yet? Because this is really new. There was a thread by Matteo explaining Leviathan. I don't know if you have heard about this, but it's really interesting. And I wanted to put it on some people's radar because we had Zygomeb on a top secret a couple weeks ago. He didn't know that he was going to be talking on recording until I told him when he came like on the show. So then I said, hey, do you want to be recorded or not? So then he started to talk about it. And it was like the first place that Leviathan was mentioned. So we've been kind of looking forward to it. But have you heard about this?
No, this is the first time. Not really sure what it is, to be honest. Yeah,
Okay.
this is completely new to me. Most likely, anything you tell me today, I'm gonna not know too much about, or I've heard like a little bit about, because
and that's why we
yeah.
do it. That's why we kind of do this, so that way we can get people exposed to different things before we talk about what they're doing, but also it kind of gives people so I'll just kind of, if you don't mind, can I just run through? There's only about 4 of them real quick to kind of give the TLD
No,
on.
this is your call. Whatever you want to talk about. I'm just happy to be here and to be able to talk to about blockchain technology and stuff with you because I know that you have a very interesting, broad perspective about a
Yeah,
lot of the stuff.
yeah, no, no, no,
Anything that
exactly. And you're a
right?
real innovator in this space, so I think it's kind of cool to hear for people to hear kind of what you're doing too. Um, okay, so Mateo says in an attempt to improve Cardano's throughput and increase finalization, Optim wants to create an L2 based on a centralized program. The sequencer to execute multiple connected transactions at once without having to wait for Cardano confirmation. This operation is commonly known as transaction chaining, and it works only for transactions that are sequentially connected. All of this is expensive in terms of costs and space. So a possible solution could be to implement ZK rollups in the future. The catch, to allow the sequencer to queue the transactions in the many possible transaction chains, it must have full control of them. Therefore, the user must allow his account, a smart contract, to manage for him all his cryptos that he wants to use on the layer 2. So this is kind of like the Optim account and Leviathan. And then he says, my take, more research is needed to eventually decentralize the sequencer. Leviathan is not much different from many Ethereum layer 2s, except for better control of users' funds, granted that the sequencer doesn't become malicious or gets hacked. Zygomev retweeted this.
Nice. It's strange because I mean, Stark in some ways is like a type of sidechain layer two, but it's mostly just for distributing the tokens at least for right now. So I find this kind of in the same space because to some degree Stark is it's a project, it's a game, so it is centralized, but it's still a blockchain. It's interesting to hear that. I mean, but it would solve that problem. I think they're taking a more formal approach than at least for what I'm doing, because mine is mostly just a thing you can play with and experiment with and learn about
Yeah,
blockchain technology with. But yeah, I'm all for it. It sounds really cool. Um, it's it the that problem right there, what they were talking about, ZK rollups and decentralizing. That's one of the reasons why I haven't added transactions into Starch, for example. So um, but yeah, it's a real problem, especially when it's centralized, you know.
right. Yeah, because that's kind of there's maybe problems that come with when it's centralized. Um, but yeah, okay. So real quick, Emmanuel, we finally got the podcast together. We're going to do Friday at 3 p.m. So it might be released next week. He's been talking a lot about some interesting things. Well, I don't know what he's been tweeting recently, but I remember him talking about, just some different things that we didn't hear too much about. Like I remember JP Morgan's blockchain, and I think it's Base is the one that he's talked about quite a bit. And I reached out to him before Christmas because of that, because he had some takes that this blockchain base would be sort of where companies like Uber would gravitate towards. But people can go on his feed. Sometimes there's a lot of memes and fun stuff, but sometimes it gets kind of technical. He's another dev from the DC Spark ecosystem that then kind of
Nice.
is doing some other things. So I don't know, like, I'm not gonna look for the tweet right now, but there was an interesting couple of tweets that sounded very, I think, bullish on, and I always try to figure out because I'm in Cardano and I don't want to be in an echo chamber. I always do try to figure out what's going on with ETH L2s, and I always do. I'm looking at Radix and Multiverse X a little bit too recently, so I'm trying to get outside just so that way I know what's going on. But I've spent a lot of time, looking at devs like what Abstract is going to be talking about later today, and in Cardano, and understand why it works with native assets and whatnot. So we're going to be putting this together. I don't know if you have any comments there, but if not, we can kind of move on here.
Well, actually, to maybe to add a little bit to the idea, one thing that I'm not sure if a lot of people know about is, in the traditional financial system, There's this book called Layered Money, and it talks about the 7 different layers of money. Because technically, in the traditional market system, um, there are several layers. You know, like if you have a credit card, you have a certain amount of time before that, that transaction gets cleared into the system, and that goes into a type of ledger that they're keeping track of, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, with the financial system, it's a lot more flexible because there's a lot of inflation and other things that people can add to that. But adding a layer twos, I would say that most likely in the future, with technology like this, it might be, you need to have like a trusted layer two, maybe a trusted all the way to maybe level, layer seven of transactions, that all kind of, because it's like, I don't remember, it's been a long time since I've read it. It's been like a couple of years, but basically, all these different systems, they go based on different times, and then you have to, submit the transactions in like a grouped transaction almost. Like all this money was moved from here to here, but you're not giving the exact small transactions. You're just giving the bulk of it, and you're keeping the small ones to yourself. Something around those lines. It's been a long time, but it's kind of what layer twos do, right? They clear back into the main Cardano system, or in the case of Cardano, or whatever the main blockchain is, and that one's super secure. And then you have a bunch of layers that come from that, and um, but I mean, for crypto to go mainstream, I think we need to have that, because even Cardano, I think Cardano is pretty quick about clearing transactions, but it's still not fast enough for um, for
Certain
there to be like, yeah, like the entire world on Cardano would be amazing, but we would have to have a lot of layer twos, for there to, for that infrastructure to be able to support all those, CPS per second, transactions per second, and and do it in a trustable way. So I think it is uh, something that we're talking about now, but it's going to be definitely something that is going to be in the future. Most likely, multiple layers of that is, at least in my opinion, is what it might be.
I like that layered money. Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely download that book probably later after this, honestly. There's another one that Josh just recommended to me today too. I think it's called like Work Culture from Cornucopia's Josh. And yeah, so there's 2 books for people. But nonetheless,
Let me.
because I just did a Metaverse Monday, so I have a book already to
Nice.
download. But Layered Money sounds like one I actually want to like start right now almost. Sorry, you were gonna say
Well,
something?
yeah, I was gonna say, I read about, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 books a month, or at least listen to. So if you want recommendation of books, I got a ton. Another one that I would say, at least for when it comes to this type of stuff, Trust, is a really good book. It's so good that I have a physical copy of it, because it was, I usually listen to audiobooks, and then I had to grab the physical book because it was just that good.
You know
Yeah,
what?
it's just called Trust.
Have you read Starfish and the Spider?
I have not.
Oh, dude. Okay.
No, that's
I'll
this
give
one.
you that one, and you can give me the Trust and Layered Money. Starfish and the Spider, dude. You got to read it. I'm telling you, it talks about decentralized organizations, weak points and advantages, and centralized organizations, weak points and advantages, and they compare it to nature, where a spider, if you cut off the head, it kind of is like a centralized organization. However, a starfish, it's got some kind of autonomy when you cut off an arm, because what it does is it mutates and it actually turns into 2 starfish. And that's kind of what we saw with a thing like open source with Napster. When Napster got targeted by big record label companies, they got kind of like cut off. But because the code was open source, it evolved into Emule. Emule was a file sharing. No one knew who ran it, and that was what was so hard to stop, because it mutated once it got cut. So that, and it goes through all these different examples, all the way back to the freaking Apaches. But yeah, Trust, and then Layered
Nice.
Money, and then Starfish. But a couple more here. So there's so I don't know if we'll put this together. I did reach out to the new. Well, I don't know if she's new, but she's like in the last, I don't know, I would say year or two. Sabina, the
Okay.
creative director of IOHK. I did just reach out to her. She just followed me because I did an update on Clay Nation. Lena and Sabina posted some pictures saying that they had some kind of thing for the community. She just followed me, so I reached out. So we'll see if we can get her on the podcast too. I'd love to get her perspective as the creative director on IOHK. I don't know if,
Awesome.
yeah, so I don't know if I have, like, it's interesting where I saw X Meta. Like that to me, I want to ask, like, what was it like being at, because I like Meta, I'm interested in immersive tech and the metaverse and stuff. And that company, I'm always interested in talking to I've talked to an engineer before from Meta, who Cardano Poppy knew from Future Fest. And I'm always interested in getting the inside scoop. I think Jawad from Virtua's sister worked for Meta. So I've heard some, but it's always nice to know like what's going on and like, how's that different, but nonetheless, before we go to, I guess, abstract here, there's two more guests that I didn't pull up, and that would be Nudes. I'd like to get a podcast with Nudes. Dude, you know what I would also want to do is do more of the on-chain using Cardano scan. Like, I don't think that there's enough educational content out there, abstract, on like how to actually do on-chain discovery, like, or like on-chain, what's it called, analysis. I think
Yeah.
I think it'd be nice to almost put together a series, or maybe that's with Nudes, maybe that's with a developer, just a few videos showing people the basics of using something like that. That was an idea I also had recently. So
I think it would be very valuable actually, because I mean, even when I got into it, it was a bit of a learning curve, even coming from like, because I came from Ethereum, and it's like I didn't understand UTXO for a while. It's like, what the hell is this? And yeah, so I think it would be extremely valuable. And I use Cardano Scan all the time too now. And yeah,
yeah, I agree, man. And there's definitely some things that I still don't know, but after I met the guys who are behind that, who are behind the Cardano scan, and they're from India, I think. Um, and they were, at the Dubai summit thing, and we were talking, and they really impressed me. Actually, those guys really impressed me, and they're building Flack Finance, which is gonna, I think, allow people to, have crypto, like go somewhere in the world, have crypto, but the Flack Finance will be a fiat custodian that will take the crypto, certain crypto, obviously, and they'll be able to make a payment by fiat, even if I don't have fiat. Like, they'll custodio fiat and do all the background stuff, so I can just pay for things. So that's a big issue and problem that we've seen worked on the last, like, I don't know, 4 years in crypto. And it'd be cool if they were the ones to maybe make an excellent product in that domain.
yeah, that sounds really awesome. I've seen a couple of different um, people trying to solve that problem. It's just the volatility is mostly the issue for what I've seen. But
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting, right? But nonetheless, man, so we're here with Abstract Potato because this all started for me, and I told Abstract this because of Fortuna. So I thought that this was more similar to what I could have seen other people almost forking or like, evolving what Fortuna was. So Abstract, I don't know if you remember Fortuna or if you ever participated in mining Fortuna, but the TLDR is Fortuna's Bitcoin on Cardano. They basically made it so that way they could show off Icon smart contracts, the guys behind Icon. And you could mine. I mined a block of Fortuna once, and the difficulty adjusted to the point where I couldn't mine it because I was using some basic miner. Somebody posted a bunch, like, different miners on GitHub. People started mining with like these insane miners, and I could barely even put it in my terminal because I'm not like a developer. So I'm like freaking out with Homebrew and all these different things to add the first miner. I get one block, and by the time I know it, I already would have had to like update to like 6 generations of miners after. And I thought that NFTs could be mined that are native assets on Cardano, but through proof of work, which it's hard to explain. but this is seemingly in that direction of, and there is a great thing that you put here. Let's see if it's in the home section.
I think there's a lot of information on it. I tried making that all pretty. I was up until like 4 in the morning last night.
Well, no, it
Yesterday, I mean,
looks great
well, this morning, I mean,
because
yeah.
you're a full stack dev. So let's get into this. And what is your background and like who are you so people can follow you and whatnot and they know like who they're hearing from first of all, because I heard about you like wait, you were in Cardano wicked early. Like, well, I mean, I remember you in the early days that I was in Cardano too. So I don't know when exactly you got in and whatnot, but uh, you've been around essentially. So
Yeah. I would say the summer of 2021 was when
right.
because I've been a developer for a longer time than that, but that was when I decided, okay, I want to start building on the blockchain. I started trying to build stuff on Ethereum, didn't like the fees, and I'm just like, there's got to be an alternative. Started looking around, and then I found Cardano, and I just been stuck to it. Went to the first, kind of a little bit of a background story here, but I went to the first Flutist Pioneer program, didn't understand Haskell. So I took all the time between that one and the next one, I believe it was in November of 2021, to learn Haskell so that then I could take it and then understand what was going on. And then that's when I started developing more stuff. And I think by around December was that I started being able to actually start shipping code. But it was a long learning process, at least for me. And it still is continuously a learning process, but I love every second of it. It's somewhat difficult sometimes, but after I get it, it's like, man, I could do a lot of stuff with this. So
Yeah, so you've worked with projects, you've done work, so you got a lot of experience, I think, in the very nascent. Lots of infrastructure has probably come since the times that you were working on stuff, and you're kind of one of these software engineers almost. It seems like you're coming into your own as because this seems like something that you could only create if you were a bit of a software engineer versus your dev that's just using tools available. Am I wrong? Or is that kind of how you feel right now too, a bit?
yeah, that's actually exactly how it is. I like using my own code because it's reliable. If it breaks, I know where it breaks. I mean, it's reliable to that point where if something goes wrong, I know exactly where that thing went wrong. I coded the whole entire thing myself. So I like having that control over things, but it does take a longer time to develop things in the long run because you're, building some things from scratch. But anything that I can kind of outsource, I try to. Um, but at least for the core infrastructure, that's something that I hold on to very tight.
Okay, so when it comes to starch, right? There's a few things here, and I found this quote. I'm not sure exactly where it is. Maybe it's start here, but there was a great quote that said that this is dealing kind of with the unknown, and it reminds me of SIP 68 days, where SIP 68 was Pandora's box, I think, for a lot of people. Then like, I don't know if you remember, but people started to call, the effect that dynamic NFTs would have as art
Mm.
upgrades, or, they would call them art upgrades. But like before that, I was following SIP 68 because Riley tipped me off that it was being worked on before it was all completed and whatnot. And I was looking for dynamic NFT stuff. I found Chainlink, but there wasn't really anything in Cardano because Cardano has these native tokens, you know? So
Yeah.
668 is part of this thing, Starch. Starch, again, the backstory of where I thought it was similar. I think there are maybe some similarities here, but like why SIP68? Why proof of work? And how does this all work with Cardano? Can you kind of guide us in understanding what you have here made, what you have created?
Um, I mean, so it's kind of been a good discovery process. So I chose originally proof of work. Right now it still clears as proof of work in the back end. Um, but it is proof of attendance. So I've heard it being compared to like proof of attention or something like that, but it's not the same thing. It's like you have to be there. Attention is like you have to be paying attention, which are kind of different dynamics.
Definitely.
Um, but what it is, it's like as long as your thing is turned on, then you're showing that you're there, and it becomes more fair. I'm also seeing this more like from the perspective of like, um, growing more people, making it more fun. Fun is definitely like one of the focus points of the whole thing too. Um, but I mean, using SIP68, the reason why I want to do that is it's super experimental. I haven't seen anybody do it, and I still have a bunch of code that I have to test to make sure that it's all repeatable and I can do it exactly how I want it to be. But as soon as I heard about it, I'm just like, this is exactly what I want. If this was, I don't know if this was around when I first created the miners, back in 2000, the beginnings of 2022. But if it would have been, if I would have known about it back then the miners would have been, the same nature of it. But there's a lot of dynamic infrastructure and different things that I want to add to this. And, I want people to be able to make these NFTs really their own. Um, you know, Giving people the option to change the layers and having like a min UTXO fee for that layer, like to these changes. Or like right now with the current NFTs, it's not the what do you call that? The balance of the NFT of the starch that's in the miner isn't being stored in the NFT itself. So moving uh,
Yes,
from
dude,
the
this is
current
another
structure.
thing. Can I just like open that up
Sure.
for people that maybe haven't? You can take an SIP68 NFT and almost put other tokens inside of it. So I think
Correct, yeah.
there's like so much potential in that, even from like, um, yeah, like I just imagined all sorts of things like, okay, you can have maybe some ADA inside of an NFT. You can have 50 ADA inside of an NFT, and that could actually support its value over time. Or, there's maybe a way to, I don't know, uh, decide how long that ADA would need to stay in a SIP68 NFT too. That could make it like
Yeah.
that could make it like some kind of, I don't know, time like bond. Like, it's really a fascinating dynamic NFT standard because of how
It's
much you can do with it. But yeah,
it's interesting that you're talking about that. I didn't want to talk about this yet, but I'm still working out the details of something exactly like what you're talking about, which is
good.
crazy. I was just talking with Bone Pool. I don't know if you know from the Bone Steak Pool. We were talking about something precisely like that and trying to see if we could do that, but with starch, like staking starch into starch contract NFT, and then people could trade on that and do whatever and set like a date like that it needs to be what would you call that? Like it's locked in there until X date, but you don't
Yeah.
have to claim it. You can keep it, but at that date, after that date is passed, then you can come and claim it. So
And
interesting that weird weird thinking kind of in the same circles. That's awesome.
no. Yes, exactly. And I don't know if you noticed, but Captain from Cardania came on because I wanted to ask him what interested him about starch and what you're doing too. But I don't know if you can hear him or see him because I can't. Adjust.
I don't
He said in the chat,
I don't see him
adjusting.
just yet. Okay.
I think he's just adjusting the settings. So we'll wait for him. But no, dude, I agree. Bro, this is why.
Test.
Oh, okay, I guess Captain's here. Yes, Cordania. Okay, so we have I mean, this is top secret stuff. Okay, guys.
Is it working?
So this is yes.
Can't be
Episode
that top secret. You're recording it.
episode 16, top secret. Everybody that watches, please do not share everything is top secret. But we have Captain here because this intel is it's of the echelon that we need it to be for top secret shows. And Captain was the first person to tell me about what you were doing. I was off by a mile, Captain, when I thought about Fortuna, but I am talking to Abstract here, and I kind of wanted to start with this because he's going through what Starch is. He's going through kind of his journey. But what interested you about what he's doing to give the top secret listeners some context?
Sure. Okay. So what always interests me and what attracts me to projects like this is that there's new tech being deployed in kind of novel ways. And that's kind of what's happening here. And I've gotten actually pretty good about sniffing these out because developers have like a particular aesthetic because they're a little bit quirky, and their front end is usually, it looks almost like markdown. It looks like a little bit like code. It looks like, because they're so excited to get to that point that often the front end has received the least attention. And so I saw this and I was like, oh shit, there's a wizard cooking here, and I gotta figure out what's going on. So actually, it was Marcia Soros, I think, on Twitter who sent me this initially. So props to him. But so what's happening here with Starch, or at least as I see it, this is combining the best of proof of work, which is fabulous for a bunch of different reasons, on top of the best proof of stake chain, which is Cardano for various reasons, with Cardano's token technology, which doesn't require smart contracts wrapped in the token. Fabulous architecture for various reasons. With NFTs, which are still relatively new technology, which I love for various reasons. And then he even took a step further with the proof of attention thing, which sort of, it really democratizes mining in a lot of ways. People can just run this thing on a browser, and that's it. So all of those things combined, and I said, oh man, I have like nine. I think I have like 9 miners running right now. It's
Nice.
nuts. It's out of control. Yeah.
I didn't know you had so many.
Okay.
Yeah, I got him before I started telling everyone about it. I was like, yes. I was like, yes. All right, fine. Yeah.
So Abstract, when you hear that, you were kind of going through proof of attendance a little bit. We were talking about SIP68. You leaked that you might be doing some interesting stuff in the fact that you can lock tokens in a SIP68 NFT for an amount of time, and you might do that as a proof of concept because no one's really played around with that stuff yet, in my opinion, enough. What about proof of attendance?
Yeah.
And if you want to kind of go into some of those things that Captain just mentioned too, have we still not maybe talked about or covered? Because there's a lot going on here.
So the best resource for that would be the light paper. I would say I just updated it today with some suggestions from Nudes. He gave me some great information.
Can you get onto the white paper from the website, or is this?
Yeah, if you go to you have to go to the home screen. I'm still
okay.
figuring out how to do the UX a little bit better, but yeah, it's right under there somewhere. Yeah, right there. More information at the bottom where the spinning token is. Yeah, I'm still. You can see these are things that I look at. And I'm just like, okay, how do I make that better so that somebody can go directly into that page without cluttering the whole place? But one of the things that that I love about proof of attendance, and this is something that I kind of because so I'll start with the problem because it used to be proof of work until just very recently. And one of the problems with proof of work was that with one miner, a bunch of infrastructure, you could essentially take 90% of the rewards from from mining, and that was killing the project, in many ways. Because if somebody new came in, they didn't have all that infrastructure, then it would just, they would just leave because it's like, oh man, I'm running this thing for a week. I don't have a single block or reward or anything. So how proof of attendance solves that is like, instead of having a bunch of infrastructure, you can have anything. Like you could literally have, a Fire Stick as long as it supports a web browser. You can have it and you can run the thing, and as long as it's on, basically every 12, I think right now it's about 12 and a half seconds. The system will say to the server, "Hey, I'm here," and that goes into a raffle. And you can only have one per 147-second cycle. So we get about 588 blocks a day. That counts to about 214,000 blocks or something like that a year. So there's a halving event every single year. That's kind of how I planned it out. So right now it's set to go 10 years plus, and then well, this is more of a token distribution, other stuff like that. But proof of attendance, basically what it does is that it makes that raffle system fair. So instead of
Is there no difficulty adjustment if more people enter and you got Captain with 9 browsers, maybe he's got 72 and like another week from now? Is there no like difficult, or is it
yeah,
just
there is.
happening? Okay.
Yeah, so the difficulty is how many people are in, instead of like the infrastructure itself. So let's say you have 100 miners, you only own one, then you have a 1% chance, and it's random. So you have a 1% chance of getting a block, and there's only about 24 and a half blocks per hour. So, you could do the math and figure out, okay, maybe, how can I adjust that? But, right now we've been getting like 150 miners, and then, your chances go below 1% in some cases. But
Right.
that's kind of how the difficulty is adjusted. The more people that enter the network, the more difficult it becomes. And then also, because of the scheduling of the token distribution every year, it cuts half. Does the halving event, and we actually just went through one. We were doing 50 million starch tokens per block. Now it's 25 million. And next year around this time, then we'll have another halving, and that'll be 12 and a half, and so on and so forth until about, I would say 10 to 20 years down the future, as long as the blockchain and the infrastructure keeps running. We'll have, multiple halving events.
Now, because I want to go over to Captain in a second and see and ask him where he thinks this kind of stuff all goes. But before that, let's get the details really crystal clear here. Because you have miners and then you have blocks. So how do you have a miner? Number one, is it mint? Is that like you mint a miner, and then what comes out of the block? Starch token, and what can you do with that starch token? Maybe some of those basic details, if you want to correct the things that I just said, or explain it your own way. Please do. Like,
Right.
where are the assets and things? Yeah.
So basically, anybody can mine with anybody else's miner. I really wanted that dynamic placed
Wow.
into there. But another thing too. So yeah, if you wanted to, do somebody a favor, and this used to happen at the beginnings of the project. People were like, "Oh, I'm struggling to get blocks. Okay, I'll help you mine." And people would mine for each other, because as long as you have that ID, you can just open up the miner and help anybody else. But how it works is the owner of the NFT, because that's in a specific wallet, that wallet, only that wallet can claim those rewards, right? Because it can check the blockchain before it sends the tokens, and then it only sends them to the person that owns the NFT with that specific ID. So it's kind of like an extension of Cardano in that way, where it's kind of like, it is kind of like a sidechain, but it's so attached to Cardano, it's almost like,
It's like a vapor.
it's
I don't know if I would call it. Yeah, it's not like I know vapor chain is something that people say, but I don't know, man. I've been thinking about it the same way. It's really an interesting dynamic with some of these things. Fortuna creates almost a Bitcoin oracle for randomness because it's using Bitcoin off chain, and people can use that as an oracle. Is there any like things that can be used by projects from this proof of attendance consensus, do you think? Or
there are going to be a couple of different things that are in the works, like that contract idea that I was telling you about, like a storage contract, for example, where it locks it. Is that I've thought about all different applications to something like that, and there are many applications that, for example, if somebody wanted to build a project, that they can connect to this and be able to get those contracts and be able to it's kind of a weird concept. I'm still playing around with the idea, but I am building an API for developers to be able to grab this, developer API and then extend it and do all kinds of different things, query the database and display it if they want to display it in a different way, or if they want to, make a game on top of it, or around those lines.
Yeah, because that's what I was gonna kind of go into too with or sorry, abstract. Did you have anything else on that point too? Yeah.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that it's very focused on the gaming aspect of gamification of the blockchain. That's the main focus of the whole thing.
Okay, because that's what I kind of want to understand more. And Captain, I think you said similar things. So, like, how does this relate to maybe blockchain gaming in your mind? And like, how does this all maybe relate to Cardano's gamification being amplified slash Cardania and what you're doing? Because you're a project, you might be looking at this to leverage it somehow, or maybe parts of it. So, like, what's the feedback here, and what's kind of in the works? Maybe do you think, or needs to evolve for it to be in the works?
Sure. Well, I think as is, it's already really valuable and awesome, and I suspect will attract a lot of attention. By the way, congrats on the launch there, Potato. It's amazing.
Thank you.
So I just think as is, like the current product he has, I think is pretty revolutionary. Where I would see this tech going is actually bigger than games, but in software in general. Because right now, what I see as being particularly valuable in sort of tech right now is simply attention, like actually human attention and eyeballs, right? And what this tech does is a really really verifiable and secure way of basically verifying attention to at least some degree, right? So I could see that being pretty revolutionary for like advertising in general, social media in general. Um, you know, if this goes back to sort of like how NFTs kind of change the relationships between these sort of like creators and consumers. So you could imagine, maybe you're watching Netflix or something, and that's great. But why would you watch Netflix if you can go watch, I don't know, Potato Flicks, and they pay you to have your screen on, you know? It's like it's a completely different thing. And that doesn't mean that, the potato coin you're getting from Potato Flicks is gonna be amazing, but people are increasingly just looking to monetize their time no matter what they're doing.
Well,
So
what's funny about that though, Cap, because Abstract Potatoes said something as early on as a very interesting clarification, which is there's a difference between proof of attendance and proof of attention. Because I think you're
true.
smart to highlight that earlier, because when it comes to how do you know that somebody is actually watching the advertisements on
Mhm.
Netflix? I think attendance is the word that you guys are using that's so key there versus attention, because attention might be harder to prove, but attendance there might be a bit more at play. So I don't know if abstract, if you're following me like on where I'm going with this in my mind, but when it comes to how to prove that attendance, I think that
Yeah.
there is a valuable amount of use cases, as Captain's mentioning, things like Netflix, anything that you can tell that users are actually using the darn thing. But like, how do you prove that attendance? And what do you think about this in this rift?
I think the technology could be used in a lot of potential different ways, for sure. Um, so there's a couple of different problems that I would consider, at least when it comes to something like that. But there is a lot of other additional infrastructure that would have to come out of it. One of the things that so how I came across proof of attendance was trying to fix the problem previously from proof of work that I was having, and I found a paper from a school trying to use GPS to make sure that students were like actually attending classes or something around those lines. And I read that through that paper and grabbed the pieces of information that I could that applied to blockchain and added it in. But
Hmm.
as far as there's a bit of a problem with motivation, right? So these studies have been done with children, right? So it's like you have a group of children and you tell them to draw just for fun, and they'll draw a lot better. They'll be more productive. But then you have another group of children, and you tell them you're going to pay them to draw, and they're not, even if they enjoyed it previously, it's almost like you to it's a weird dynamic. So that's something that I have to play with consistently, as I continue to build this thing, because it's a very weird psychological dynamic in people's heads. Like, okay, how do you reward them while still not bridging whatever that mental gap is in their psychology? So I don't know if that completely makes sense, but it's like once you start rewarding somebody for something that they enjoy, sometimes the doing the thing itself is the enjoyment, right? So that's kind of why I go more into like, oh, this is a game, you know, for various reasons, but it's because if you enjoy mining for the sake of mining, then you're doing essentially what it's supposed to be doing, right? So I'm trying to make the experience of that the best it can be. I hope that kind of makes sense. But you're being rewarded, but you're doing the thing at the same time. I don't know. It's a weird gap in people's
No, it makes
thoughts.
complete sense, man. It makes complete sense. I don't know if Captain, if you have anything to add there, but you know, I think about how advertising.
Dude,
Yeah,
it
go
just
right ahead, please.
yeah, no, dude, it makes perfect sense, and he's right. Just people don't think about these things this way yet, or they're just now starting to think about these things. And there's been iterations of this type of thing pre-blockchain, but it's not it's not verifiable, it's not secure, you know, all those things that we look for now. So when I saw, you know, his project, I just got really excited about it, because I was like, oh yes, this is just an obvious next step, um, in my mind anyway. I mean, I know just the experience of mining itself is so exciting for so many people, but yeah, they're basically teched out of it because of you know, GPU requirements or whatever, or ASIC requirements. And, you know, it's expensive. The capital gates are pretty robust at this point. So this type of thing where someone can just, you know, grab an NFT and then be mining to a chain, which, and what I think what's nice about this, particularly with being on Cardano and taking advantage of sort of like all the Cardano native token architecture, it just makes a lot of sense. I feel like it's super simple. It's already simple enough that, like, you know, and newbies can do it. Newbies can do it easily. So, you know, I just think it's got legs.
Do you hope that
And
people take Starch and build things on top of it themselves, like as a platform? Abstract?
I do hope so. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that's in the works as far as like providing those APIs and providing those extra, you know, resources, SDKs, and different things that people could use. You know, if somebody wants to like build a miner, I want to be able to have that documentation available. There was somebody, his name is FOMO on Twitter. I think what he ended up doing was I wrote some Python code. This was, you know, a couple of years ago. I wrote some Python code so that it could be more stable for those people that are more technical to um to run this Python code and mine, you know, proof of work through that Python code, right? And what he did was, because there's a nonce value, even though, anyway, there was some weird nuance there. Like, if you selected a specific nonce value, then it wouldn't work most of the time. But anyways, he ended up doing this thing where, when the network was really low, where he would make his programmed miner, he changed the code in there. So instead of giving you a random value, it would give you a black. So there's a bunch of black, and a bunch of black blocks on the blockchain right now from that time, that it was just him, you know, that had modified the code to be able to get all those black, you know, um, all those black blocks, you know, because the nonce value um, is just a color instead of being a random value like with Bitcoiner. You know.
Oh, okay. I didn't even read that part yet because I was skimming through it before. So instead of a random value, you've made it colors for the nonce.
Yes. So if you go to the blockchain page, you can see all these different colors. I love it because, like, it's so weird. It's, you know, um, because you can literally see it. And it's not just like a boring thing with a bunch of numbers. You can actually see the actual colors of every single block, and you can go, I think, 2,000, 3,000 pages back in the past, all the way to the Genesis block, and be able to see every single block has its own color. I just did that more of like, you know, a little touch of like, hey, this is actually why if I could use any random uh thing, why not use a color? I really
It
didn't,
is. It's quite artistic, I must say. I like. Is it every hex value just randomly?
yeah, you can use any hex value,
That's cool.
essentially.
Dude, this is
And
why.
then,
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
no, go ahead.
I was
I'm
just gonna
interested to
say,
hear.
like, bro, I just think that we're so early sometimes because we haven't experimented with, like, you know, using colors as dots. Like, it's just there's so much that we could probably add to the whole conversations of consensus and where we can use proof of whatever we're now inventing. You know, I don't know if proof of attendance. Did you say that you invented it, or was this something that you've seen before?
I haven't seen it anywhere before. I literally just took that paper, and then just kind of grabbed what I could from there,
That's
popped
not.
it up on top of, yeah, put it right on top of blockchain. I'm just like, okay, let me see how these two things could fit together. And I mean, I haven't seen anybody else do this exact same thing with that. There might be an algorithm. There's so many creative developers out there, so I might not be the only one that's created it, but I've definitely the only one that I've seen that's done it. Yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of like really nerdy and geeky to some people that are watching, but what we're talking about is like innovation. And like where I think one of the pieces that we haven't really gone down the rabbit hole on is where does SIP68 come into play? Because we talked about the potential of it. We talked a little bit more about what you were going to do with maybe time locking tokens inside of a SIP68, but NFT. But where does SIP68 come into play here? Because again, Captain, I think you were one of the first projects I saw use SIP68 after Saturn. I think you were the first, or you might have been right around when they were. But I
Who
told
knows?
you,
Who knows? Yeah,
I
it's all
remember
good.
like I remember telling you about it. You were using it like a few months,
Cardano,
like a
people
week
in
later.
Cardano get so up each other's ass about who's first to particular things. It's so funny.
Oh, dude,
Anyway,
yeah.
yeah, we were early to it, but yeah, yeah,
But it's
I'd
cool
like to hear more
because
about what he's going to do with it.
yeah, what are you gonna do with the abstract potato? Because you also, you know, SIP68 fans here is all, you know, I'm trying to paint a picture of.
Well, I mean, so there's a couple of different things, right? So one of the things that I want to be able to do is right now, if you get a miner like on JPEG Store, for example, the when you look at the metadata doesn't show how much charge is in it, you as the balance of the actual miner. So
Oh,
what right now you have to create a transaction to get your tokens back. So what my plans are to use that same mechanism, getting the tokens out, to create that same SIP68, type of transaction to change the value inside of the NFT. So that's one of the things. Another one of the things is being able to change the layers or the actual picture of the NFT, because technically you could change anything on it, right? Um, so that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to. So there's a mixture of on-chain and off-chain, data and code, really. But what it is, it's on my end, I would be keeping inventory, basically, of like skins that's this specific miner could hold, right? And then that way you don't have to like burn your previous skin to get the new skin. You could, let's say we have
switch.
this is playing on the, yeah. Let's say we have like a, I don't know, Christmas event or something, and you get the little miner, a little a little Santa hat reminder or something, or I'm just playing with the idea, but that's what I want to see. Like, why don't we have this technology that's so
It's
common in gaming, but also have it in, you know, on the
it's
blockchain? I think
it's yeah,
I
it's
think it's a no-brainer.
deflationary. It's so deflationary because I remember back in the day you had projects mint a Christmas collection or, you know, Clay Nation did Good Charlotte, but you also had the Goat Tribe do a Christmas collection. And I was like, well, why don't we just put those inside the same NFT with
Mhm.
68 when it came out? Because it's like and you can do the same with an avatar potentially, though I haven't seen anybody contest Ready Player Me in this field. You could do the same with an avatar with skins if the avatar is interoperable with a bunch of different, I guess, MMO worlds or gaming worlds where you can just, have how it looks all in one place and just switch it with the
Yeah,
668
different
NFT.
assets.
So,
Yeah, that would be awesome. But it's mostly that. I think like, and this is something that I keep thinking about, making my own marketplace for these NFTs, is because there is some stuff that I can put on the blockchain, but then I want to be able to be expansive. Like, let's say you have a miner and it has 1,000 skins on it, for example. When I put it on JPEG, I can't put all that information in the metadata. So obviously that would have to be off-chain code, but being able to put that in the marketplace and then see all the skins, and you're just like, oh, that's why that's priced that way, and not like every other one, or something like that.
would you use Nebula as a framework for said marketplace potentially? Because
Is
SIP68
that
NFTs, work really well with Nebula. So I don't know if you've thought about it.
I would most likely end up building my own, just
Okay.
because there's a lot of rich metadata that I would want to display on there.
Okay.
I just like, I have a thing about building things from like the ground up. I just enjoy the process, and I like having full control. Sometimes when you grab something else that somebody else has done, even if it's cool and open source, then you have to kind of fit into their mold of what they intended for that thing to be. So if I want
Yeah.
to expand it and do some crazy stuff where I can, I don't have a full picture in my head of like the infrastructure of the thing. So usually I just code stuff myself.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, I guess that is kind of a case where you might not want to use Nebula if you want to build your own universe from where you're going. You don't want to be boxed in. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting because I would be interested. Have you looked at Nebula? Like, do you have any thoughts on if you think it's a good marketplace framework or
Is
that?
that the one? Is that the Space Buds one?
Yes. Yeah.
I did look into it, but yeah, I found some things in there that I didn't. Yeah, it's kind of around the same lines of like, I want to have more control over the thing. So yeah,
Okay, no, yeah, because I'm just curious about what builders are kind of thinking about it. But all right, so that's interesting. Well, I don't know if there's anything else that we're missing here. Cap, like any other thoughts on kind of you're building a gaming project. We talked a little bit about gamification, talked a little bit about, finding these wizards because the wizards are out there if you can find them. And you gave a couple of telltale signs on how to find maybe the next abstract potato wizard. But what else are you kind of, what's going through your head that you want to leave on the field here for this kind of top secret, or any discussional topics too that we can quickly riff on, or, whatever with abstract?
Uh, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff we could touch on with it.
Yeah.
Whether it's gaming or like we're talking about, other entertainment stuff. I just think what he's done here is so interesting to me because it's actually created, it's almost a new class of it's a new class of blockchain, because this is basically proof of, I know it's not exactly proof of work, but these sort of Cardano side chains are kind of their own interesting thing that is really, really just getting started. And look, a bunch of people, like, this is how Ethereum blew up too. It became so easy for people to make with their ERC20 tokens. Like a toddler can make an ERC20 token now. And I'm wondering, as he expands, like how easy is it going to be for people to spin up their own side chains, because I that's certainly of appeal, I think, to a lot of businesses when you don't have to deal with the same architectural issues as over on Ethereum or Solana or that kind of thing, and you're getting all the benefits of Cardano's architecture, and you have your own chain. Like, that's like some next level stuff. that's kind of where my head's at.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean there's tremendous value in that. I think I would have to do more research, at least for like other businesses and stuff. I've been so focused on like making this into like a fun experience that
Yeah.
that I honestly haven't really looked into much of any other kind of case use. I know you've brought a couple of different case uses and different things, and that whole random generation of numbers was also brought up to me, and I'm like, I'm just trying to make this thing fun, and it's it's a weird thing because like there is a part of like I don't want to call it my ego, but it's like I want to make something that hasn't been made before. There's like something about that,
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
like,
that's fun.
and kind of like push the envelope forward. I feel like Cardania has actually done that very well as well. Like you have all these millions of other products that are popping up every single day, and then you have like Cardania come up and actually do something pretty like damn cool. You know, fucking card game, and I don't know if I could cuss in this space, but
Yeah.
you know, a card
No,
game.
Cuss away, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Feel free. But dude, their epoch, relating the emissions of resources and stuff to like an actual, I think like time period that is the standard on Cardano per like epoch. That was another very unique standard to your point, Abstract. They kind of came up with over at Cardania. So
Steg was summoned.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
there's a lot of stuff there. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was waiting for you to say something, so feel free, whatever you're gonna say, Abstract.
No, just adding to it. Like, yeah, that's thanks to summon. If you don't mind, I can interject a couple other the starch pools, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, whatever. Like, I didn't know if we covered it all too, because I only got through some of the. I had a space before this, and then I had to, eat dinner. So I only got through like half the website, and I was kind of looking through a few different parts of it. But anything that we're missing too, feel free to fill people in on while you're here.
Nice. So we have at least for right now, we're looking at see what we could do. But right now we have 4 stake pools that are like what we're calling starch pools. So we have Bone Pool, Infinity with nudes. We have Weed Pool, the Cardano's Generous Club Weed Pool, and then we have For Freedom Pool. And basically, it's to provide some interesting stuff for them to grow stake pools, partner with them in some way. At least Bone Pool and Nudes, with Infinity Pool. They're very involved with the project. There's a lot of ideas that come from them that that they're checking my stuff, testing it out, and doing a lot of really cool stuff. So I just want to give credit to where credit is due, because those 2 guys are really on top of their game when it comes to what we're doing. I say we because I kind of think about them too. But yeah. Anyways, those 4 pools right now, a lot of different things. Like if you claim your starch and you're in one of those pools, you have a 1 in 10 chance to get a voucher. That voucher will get you some other cool stuff later. It's more just a promotional thing for the pools. And coming up on drip drops, we're adding starch on there too, so that if you're staked to any of those 4 pools, you get some extra starch, 43,000, I think. And if you're just blockchain wide, it's like 1,000 or something. I don't remember the detail. I think it's like 10K. I haven't posted up on my Twitter, but Nudes is taking care of that, so he knows all the details on that side. Whenever you talk to him, he'll probably talk about that too. But anyways, I feel like I'm ranting. You can stop me whenever.
The only other thing that I was gonna kind of ask too is okay, so you've been kind of heads down. Cap, before you came on, we were going through just some wider updates, talking about different developers and stuff. And this obviously is a big orchestra of tech that Abstract has had to kind of put his head down and work on. But I am kind of curious, when you look outside the world of blockchain and you look into AI or immersive tech or guys like what Elon's doing, has anything kind of been interesting that you've been following to both Cap and Abstract Potato? Because this is top secret. So if there's any like big
every day.
every day,
It's
right?
it's every single it's like every single day at this point, dude. Yeah,
Every
it's
refresh on my feed on Twitter, even if it's
no, it's like it's affecting my sleep negatively because I feel like I want to do 100 different things, because the tech is there now for a bunch of different stuff like this. So, um, yeah, I mean, on the AI side of things, it's just, literally every day. And I encourage you guys, go find the AI hashtag on Twitter or X, and just go start following people. Just follow the developers and just see what the hell they're working on. Because a lot of these guys they're posting all their work nonstop because they're also similarly just like, oh, this is amazing, this is fascinating. Here's this cool new thing I just made. And it's a lot of people like me who also weren't previously very like code, like programming is tough. It's like a tough thing to learn all the ins and outs of any given language. But using like AI as like your co-pilot, your programmer co-pilot, makes everything so much more accessible, so much more accessible. So go follow these developers, see what they're making, because there's a ton of stuff like, especially if you're interested in making stuff, there's all these different bits, pieces, and stuff that you can just kind of shellac together in different ways now. Yeah, the GPT store is coming out in OpenAI. I think that's this week. I think it's coming out in like a few days or something. So, and I think that's going to be interesting. I don't know if it's going to be quite like an Apple Store type moment, where that was sort of like the dawn of the apps and stuff. But I do think there's going to be some stuff like that. Like there's going to be really popular apps that people make a lot of money on. I actually made one. I made it's called Quest GPT. It's like a automated dungeon master thing. I'm still refining it, but it's out there. It's public. It's also under Cardania too. So it's technically a
Nice.
Cardania development thing. But any of that's like, AI is like, literally could just talk for hours about different AI developments. AI art continues to just be more and more amazing every single day. I'm working on the second edition right now. It's all AI art. It's incredible too. Yeah.
What about, okay, so have you guys used Grok? Do you have any opinions on what Grok is going to do in the future? I think it's still early personally. I think it's going to be really good though, like long term. I just think it's still early. Do you guys have any opinions on Grok?
Yeah.
I
I mean,
haven't
Angel,
watched.
feel free to jump in here if you want.
At least I haven't heard that one. I've only used
Oh, okay.
for the most part I've used GPT and Dolly. Or those are the ones that I've used the most.
Yeah.
I loved using Dolly. I have a couple of pictures that I absolutely love, because I just played around with it for hours and hours when it first came out. I was one of the people that got in line to grab, because I just thought it was amazing. But yeah, I haven't really played around. That was like a while ago. But the one that I've been using most has been ChatGPT, just because I love talking to it and trying to see how I can break it, if anything.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
yeah, and hallucinations are interesting. So I've been trying to make it think
Yeah.
different things and playing around with your words. Those things are just crazy.
Yeah. And I have used Grok. I think it's going to be really, really good just because it has access to so much more data than basically live streaming data that other AI simply won't. Um, it's not terribly useful for me in my applications at the moment, but I've played around with it a little bit. It seems a little less like, I don't know what models and stuff it's all trained on. It does seem a little less responsive and like well trained than I think GPT-4 is right now. Um, I would say certainly less so. I think Grok's maybe at like a maybe 3.5 level right now, but it's just going to get better and better. It's as bad as it's ever going to be. So
It's as bad. Yeah, it's as bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's like a baby. Well, I don't
yeah,
know. Sometimes people grow up though, and they turn out to be maybe worse than what
that's
their
true.
baby selves.
That's
But
true.
or they get diseases and now they can't talk like when maybe they were smarter when they were a baby because there's a disease that they got. But besides those edge cases, I agree with that principle. Hey man, so guys, is there anything that is kind of like, kind of top secret that's brewing that you've spotted that maybe would be or whatever to end on here that maybe like you want to, just share with the with your homie Jay speak so I can share it with my audience that is low key tech Not like alpha for, price, oh, we're gonna moon, but just
Sure.
like some stuff that's real game changing that you want to kind of give to the audience here.
I'll let you go first if you got anything there, Mr.
At
Potatoes.
least personally, um, I've been so involved with my damn potatoes and smart chain and stuff, and I haven't really been looking at anything else recently. I'm very out of the loop for a lot of these new technologies, and it just evolves so quickly that it's hard to keep track of. If I were to say anything, it would be probably stuff that I shouldn't talk about my own project.
Yeah.
I'll just keep it at that.
Well, that's why we have you on, because like people are kind of saying you, but uh with Cap, what do you got? Because Cap always is a wizard, and he sometimes pulls out his rabbit out of the hat that is something top secret. That rabbit
I'm
is.
a I'm like a mid-level wizard at best. There's a whole tower above me. But oh, I mean, yeah, I honestly anything AI related, I think this is kind of the year, man. If you're like if you're at least vaguely involved in tech, I think you've got to have some kind of finger in AI. You've got to be augmenting your creative, your productive, your social media stuff. Like everything needs to be AI augmented. Otherwise, like it's just not going to be. I don't know if you'll be able to maintain the level of competition. Um, that just kind of is what it is. So that's I mean it's crazy to think about, but I think this is just the year of AI. This is the year for like I know for me, like I'm gonna take some more big swings again. Like Cardania is a pretty big swing, but I'm like, dude, with the tools we've got now, I don't know, I can deploy some absolutely insane stuff. Um, and then I would look at honestly just stuff like all of the theses, whatever, what is it, the multiple of thesis? It's all been proven for crypto at this point.
Yeah.
Look, Bitcoin, the ETF is likely getting approved, and even if it doesn't, the rest of the world doesn't give a shit. Um, it's just like it's happening, like it is what it is. Um, so I don't know. Get a boat. That's all.
Get a boat, and Cardania was gracious enough to come on here last minute. I invited him on. Is there anything that you want to tell us about real briefly that maybe we haven't heard yet or is coming down the pipe? I think there's a lot of interesting stuff these guys are doing. Mintable loot. There's a lot of interesting stuff that I think you guys are doing with real organic on-chain gaming. It's that free range on-chain gaming. It's that,
Yeah,
cage-free on-chain gaming, and it's
yes.
it's just as on-chain as it
Cage free.
gets. And you're
Yeah.
really developing those standards. So is there anything that you want to mention before we kind of pause the recording, and I thank both of you gentlemen for coming on?
I'll wrap it up in a nice little bow. Here's what I did is that we've just added just yesterday we added starch the token that the miners produce to the summoning pool, summon SUMN. So you can delegate with us, and you'll optionally be able to harvest some starch every epic, just like you would with rad and resources. And the really cool thing about this is that just like our resources, how we're basically managed, we have like a managed sort of fixed distribution model through the Terraform and stuff. It's like the same thing with the starch miners because they're just architected, that way. So like you can imagine like a couple little potatoes are now strapped into I don't know in the Cardania power bank somewhere, and they just they'll just be feeding starch out to everybody. So enjoy. I don't know if it's gonna go anywhere, but we'll see.
Just don't put those potatoes in the exhaust pipe, and that's top secret. Episode 16. So remember, everybody, keep everything that we said top secret. All right, there we go. Let's see. How do I end this? All right, one sec, guys. All right.